aggressively pursuing that as well on our list of aggressively pursuing. Ranking Member Paul.
I joined Senator Hawley in wanting more information as soon as possible. We had an update from the acting director last week, and the question I asked him was the same one you and I believe Senator Cruz raised in committee was, were security requests denied in the lead up to this? As you and others noted, it was a sort of a disingenuous at best response when they said no security was ever denied. Then they added later for Butler. But the interesting thing we have learned is, yes, it was denied. And I asked the director, do you know of the instances and who denied it? And have you read through that? And he said, yes. And I said, well, then why don't we have it? So we still don't have that. So I think there's two different categories we're looking at. Secret Service failures leading up to that day and Secret Service failures on that day and at the time of the shooting. Leading up to it, number one is denial of security requests. These were made by the Trump campaign as well as the Trump Secret Service detail. Interestingly, we've learned that the sniper request for counter snipers was approved the week before, and they were supposed to be at Doral, but did not show up at Doral. At Butler is the first time he has, this is my understanding, the first time he has Secret Service counter snipers on location. Had they not been there that day, and this is at their request, I think it was after months of requesting this, they finally get it at Butler. Yes, he got off shots, but he would have had endless shots. He'd have gotten 20, 30, 50 shots off had counter snipers not been there. That was the first time they got counter snipers, but after begging for months for it. So the details of that, how many times did they request, who turned it down, why did they turn it down, need to be addressed. The other thing is if you look at the Secret Service budget, about 35% of it goes to protective services. It had a 15% increase last year. So it's not enough to just say, oh, we need more money. We have to have, it's more willpower than it is manpower. You know, they have the assets, they need to assign the assets, but we need to figure out what went wrong in each of these locations, and denial of the security is a key one that has to be part of this. And we told him this last week, and there was unanimous agreement among Republicans and Democrats they should turn it over. But yet it's been another week and we still haven't gotten any of that information, right? So they are stonewalling us. They haven't. They've already reviewed it. They've already reviewed it for did people make mistakes in denying security, but they won't give it to us. So I think, and I appreciate the passion of the Democrat leaders on this. I think this is the first time I've ever seen the Congress unified in wanting information. And to me, it doesn't matter what party the administration is. We got to get to the truth. And, you know, this could happen to Vice President Harris or President Biden. It could happen to anybody. So we need to make sure the security is good, whether you're on one side or the other.
We are unified, Ranking Member, and we'll continue to press it. Senator Marshall, you're recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, in typical fashion, Congress is sitting here, we're forming committees. We're studying this. We're interviewing people. We're praying. And in the meanwhile, there's a second assassination attempt on former President Trump. What I'm frustrated about is the White House has the authority, without any congressional action, to go ahead and give him the same type of protection that President Biden is getting. We have over 7,000 employees for the Secret Service. They're spread out over 100 offices across the country. And I understand they all got chores to do. But for the next 55 days or so, they need to marshal those resources to protect the President Trump now, yesterday. This would be horrible for a third attempt to occur. So I would call on the White House to move forward with some type of action to give President Trump the maximum protection, the same type of protection we give the sitting President of the United States. Thank you.
First, Senator Hawley, will you withdraw your amendment?
Can I ask you a question, Senator Ross? It sounds to me, I don't want to speak for everybody, but it sounds to me like we're pretty near unanimous on this. I would love to take a standalone vote on it. I'm not trying in any way to slow your legislation, Senator Ossoff. I would love to take a vote on it today because I think, to get to Senator Blumenthal's point, it sends a message now to these agencies right now that we are in earnest. So I guess my question is, Senator Ossoff, and I'm willing to defer to your judgment on this. Do you object to us voting on this as an amendment today and doing as a standalone next week? If you would prefer not, I'll withdraw this and we can do it just as a standalone. My only interest here is just in sending the message immediately that we, on a bipartisan basis, are in earnest about this, and we're serious, and we're not happy about it. We're not happy that they're telling the Committee of Jurisdiction to go jump in a lake. So,
Yeah, thank you,
What's
Senator
your
Holland.
response?
So let me say, I agree with you and all those who have spoken about the importance of sending a unified message about timely responses to our oversight requests, our requests for documents. The reason that I suggested doing this as a standalone measure is I'm not sure that it serves the oversight request best or the underlying counter-narcotics policy proposal here best to put them together. It's not the end of the world, I think, to the underlying measure if we do. I don't know whether they can be separated and advanced with unanimous consent today, or maybe it requires the next markup. It'll have my full support when we do it next week. But I think it may be better both for your proposal and the underlying counter-narcotics proposal for them to travel independently. It's not the end of the world if they got to move together.
And our rules don't allow us to do it today as a standalone. And I would encourage that we keep that bill as clean as we can to the point. It's already hard to move things through the Congress. So how do we do that? But you have my assurance it's going to be on. Ranking Member Paul supports us getting it on the amendment. And I think we can send, it's only a week away, but we can send a pretty clear message to folks that we had this discussion already. We will have a very different discussion next week, but today it's very clear that this committee is united with your language, and so we can get the kind of push that we need right now. Ranking Member Paul.
One quick point, since if we're going to do it this way, you have a week to think about what's going to be in your resolution, is we have talked about, and Senator Blumenthal has said in public, if they don't give it to us, they should subpoena it. I wonder if the threat should be in your resolution that we get it within a certain amount of days, because, see, that'll be another 7 days. It's been 7 days since the acting director told me he'd already reviewed the previous request and he still hadn't given it to us. So we'll be 2 weeks out from that. And we also sent a letter sort of intimating we would do subpoena. So
Yeah, we have the letter
What
out.
we could do, and in the meantime, if Senator Peters wanted to do this, you could call the White House and say, next week we're voting on something.
No,
There's
we
going
will.
to be a threat of subpoena. But if you call them now, maybe the call this week saying it's coming up next week will pry loose the documents too.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Sinema, and then Senator Scott.
So, Mr. Chair, something also to consider is if we're able to move this through committee unanimously next week, we could also then send it up to both of the leadership teams and run a hotline. It's my expectation, I could be wrong, but I think we'd probably able to do this through UC on the floor pretty quickly. Everyone is united. I don't know of any senator who would oppose this. So there's I think a real possibility we could move this entire thing before we leave for the October break.
Mm-hmm. Senator Scott.
So is there anything we can do today? This is a bill, so we can't do it today, right? So can we just do, it's a sense of this committee, or is there anything like that that we can do today?